and thank you so much for joining me for Tune In Tuesday. My name is Sharon Rogers, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Wells, Maine in the United States. And because this is the second Tuesday of the month, this is Technique Tuesday. The technique we'll be focusing on tonight, or should I say techniques, is all about what to do with scraps. We all have them, and tonight we'll be mostly focusing on strips. So you'll probably have lots of leftover half-inch strips, quarter-inch strips, three-quarter-inch strips from trimming down cardstock and designer series paper. And so I'm going to show you what you can do with those. Let's get started. As I was prepping for a class, my card club actually, a couple weeks ago, I had a bunch of strips left over. Now these white ones are always great for saving, for adding sentiments, because oftentimes you just need a little strip to add to a card to add the sentiment. But what about these colored pieces here? And this is just a small pile of what I had, which made me think, I can't waste all this. Look at how beautiful these two colors go together. So then I thought, oh, well, you know what? It's about time to revisit what to do with scraps. And hence the inspiration for Technique Tuesday. But this wasn't enough color for me. So I went on to Pinterest and I just typed in Stampin' Up! Blackberry Bliss color, and then it filled in color combinations. And I looked and I thought, oh, well, Pretty Peacock goes with that. Pool Party goes with that. And then I thought, okay, that's 4 colors. I have a lighter version of the blue. The Blackberry Bliss is a very deep, rich color, and it can be a little overpowering. So what I wanted to do was bring in a, the kind of a lighter version of the craft. So I brought in Basic Beige, which is probably one of my new favorite colors. So I found some strips, dug into my scrap pile. I've got lots of them. I keep them by color. This one was a long strip, so to make it more manageable, I just cut it roughly in half. It wasn't in half. And then I made 1/4-inch strips. And I used the line on my cutter to make sure that, yep, I'm cutting straight. So I did that a few times. I'm not going to make you watch that. And I got a bunch of strips here. You know what? I don't think I have a bunch of my crumb cake ones. So let's go ahead and make those very quickly. This one happens to be 1/2 inch wide. So I get 2 of them with 1 cut, which is nice. And do the same thing. And I'm looking up here to make sure that, yep, it's right between those lines as it should be. There we go. All right. Then I brought in a piece of 4 1/4 by 11 inch thick basic white. And I'm going to score that at 5 1/2. This is what I sometimes refer to as a hot dog fold. Hamburgers are short and squat, and hot dogs are long and skinny. So this is a long and skinny piece of cardstock. It's a hot dog fold. Let me get my bone folder out here. All right. So now I have that. And then I thought, all right, let's start arranging some strips. And let's see, let's go with, where's my Pool Party? Let's do some Pool Party here. I know I've got some more Pool Party around. Oh, here's, okay. So I've got that, and let's maybe try, I don't want the blues together if I can help it. The crumb cake, the craft. Yeah, it's crumb cake. We don't have craft, we have crumb cake. And just even those 3 colors look really great together. But look at what happens. Oh, we bring in some real richness here with the Blackberry Bliss. And then we're going to repeat it. And oop, I'm forgetting my basic beige here. So basic beige, and then let's try to repeat. Let's see what this looks like. Sometimes it's just a matter of playing around until you find the color combinations you want. But, ooh, that's looking pretty nice right there. So that's how I think I'm going to adhere it. I'm just going to slide these off as best I can without messing it up. You know what? Probably do this. There we go. And then I need to just start adhering them one at a time. I like glue for this best, but you can do a lot of other things too. I'm going to use my grid that's on my Stampin' Glass Mat Studio to see where I'm laying this first one. And in fact, I want to put it about an inch from the top, I think. So if there's an inch down here, I'm just going to put this right in the middle of those two, of that square, the side of that square, because then that will help me align this. Oops, you know what? I need more. The rest I can put on in the middle of my strip. But this helps me know where my ends are. Okay. Now what you want to do is make sure that you are starting lower than you need to be, because you don't want any glue up here. You can always slide it up a little bit, but you can't slide it down and not expose the glue. Now at this point, I'm going to lay a bunch of other ones, and I can simply just keep gluing. This is the way I prefer to do it. I just butt that right up against the other one, nice and tight. And I keep going. You could, because we've got 9 strips, so that's 2 1/4 inches. You could go ahead and fill some of this in, and I'll show you. This is not my preferred way to do it. I can just do this, and then just start laying some down. The reason why I don't like this as much, because sometimes my fingers get into the glue that's down there, and I try to avoid sticky fingers if I can help it. It's hard when you're a paper crafter. But that's how I would do it. Whoops, this got a little fuzzy edge. The basic beige does leave a lot of fuzz a little bit. So you want to make sure you have a nice blade on your paper trimmer. That helps a lot. Okay, so there we go. But as I said, my preferred method is just finishing like this. So let's speed things up. Now on this last one, I do like to come in and just do it, not right here. I started doing it there, but I don't want it there. I like to do it right in here, right at the bottom, because as you may have noticed when I was doing it before, sometimes they start down and I push them up. Well, I don't want glue to be exposed where I maybe put it a little bit lower than it needs to be at first. So if I put it right on the card, then I don't have to worry about that. So there are all my strips. It's kind of a bit of a mess right here. I'm also going to continue my strips on the inside. I'll show you how to clean that up in just a second. I don't want a lot of strips on the inside though, because there's just, I want to leave room to write my sentiments. So let's see. I'm just going to use these 3. Let's put the heaviest color on the bottom. And this one's pretty easy to line up on the bottom just because it's going to be so close to the bottom edge, I just usually eyeball it and say, that looks about straight. And then I'll just put the other ones right next to it. And you can live on the edge and put it on the back of this one, or you can put the glue down first, as I mentioned just a second ago on the front. Yeah, I managed to be glue-free up above, so that's good. All right, so we've got our inside strips and our outside strips. Now all we need to do is make them neater. So if you find some wet glue, you probably want to let it dry. I see a little glue spot right here, but it's not where I'm cutting. You just want to try to avoid getting the glue with your scissors if you can help it. You can also just take some alcohol to your scissors after you're done and get away that glue residue. All right, so there is the front and the inside coordinates. These colors would be great for men and women, I think. Definitely has a fallish feel to me, which we're quickly approaching fall. Now I have my bow punch here, and I'm going to bring in another white scrap that I have. I'm going to punch out that leaf branch. And so that's going to go right here. Just adds a nice little embellishment there. This is going to be great for all kinds of occasions too. The colors that you pick will probably dictate that a bit. This color combination, I think this would make a lovely sympathy card, I think. It's very simple, which I tend to make my sympathy cards a little bit more on the somber, simple side. I'm going to bring in some of my Baker's Twine Essentials pack. I'm almost out of the craft color that's in there. Let's go ahead and, got some scraps stuck to me. Let's go ahead and tie a little bow here. I'm gonna even up my ends a bit. Straighten them out by cutting on the roll. I can avoid as much waste as possible. Then I just need to adhere this down with a glue dot. I'm going to take my glue dot. You can do it one of two ways. You can, I roll this up a little bit because it's larger than the knot. You can roll this up with a pair of scissors, or you can put your bow onto the glue dot, press it in, and then when you pick it up, pinch it with your fingers. And that kind of makes that glue dot skinnier in the back. And then we just apply it here. And if you don't like how it curls, you can mess with it. Now all we need is a sentiment. I'm going to bring in my Unbounded Love set. So I've got Celebrate. I'm going to bring in my Blackberry Bliss ink pad. And I can see right through where I'm stamping. And there is my card. I'm going to leave it without bling, but you could certainly bling this up by putting some dots on. Maybe matte dots probably would look great, but rhinestone basics would look good too, I think. But I think I'm just going to leave this pretty plain and simple. I think this is going to a gentleman I know who will probably appreciate that it's not all blinged up. I wanted to bring you a side-by-side comparison of what happens when you alter it just a little bit. So here we have the same technique, just the strips are on a diagonal. I have used that other flower that I brought in from Thoughtful Journey, Expressions, whatever it's called, and the Unbounded Love set. It is called Thoughtful Wishes. So Thoughtful Wishes is what this die came from. And so you can see that you get two different looks. Probably this looks a little more celebratory, so I might have switched these, but again, who's gonna notice or even know what the thoughts were behind this? So two looks, same technique. We're going to begin with a piece of basic white that measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches. This is really just for the basic of this card, lining things up, getting it started. Very often we have strips of designer series paper left over. And so here's the case from my Flowering Zinnia paper. I have two different patterns. One's not the reverse of the other. What we're going to do is, you can stack a couple together, by the way. We're just going to cut them into different lengths. And I'm not even really going to measure. So, this is a little bit over 2. This is a little bit over 1. Let's go with almost 3. It really does not matter what the lengths are. Close to 1.5. Might as well do the whole strip while I'm there. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing with the others. You just want some longer than others. Okay. We're going to just lay this out here. I'm going to start by putting this one way up in the corner. And then we're going to take one of the other ones and we're going to lay it right next to it. Now, don't worry that it goes over the edge. We're going to trim it. And then we go the other direction here. And we're going to leave a little bit of a gap. So just like there's mortar, grout, whatever you call it, in between bricks. That's what we're leaving here. So we want all these spaces to be roughly the same that you see. And let's see, we could go a little bit shorter here. I'm gonna stick some out here. We'll trim that off after. Then you could put even more than one in one spot. It's okay if it lines up over itself a little bit. It's kind of the way bricks work sometimes as well. Let's see, we'll put this one over here. These are 3/4 inch strips. You could certainly do 1/2 inch strips. 1 inch might be a little bit wide. Let's see here. Oh, and this works out just about perfectly. I mean, it depends on your spacing, obviously. I'm going to space it just so it does work out perfectly. And so we'll just glue those down. And you can use glue or you can use your favorite tape runner. I do like the glue because it does give a little bit of wiggle room when you're laying it down. Okay, so we have all of those glued down. We're going to, ooh, I glued some to my, you should probably use your silicone mat here. We're going to just flip this over and trim off these ends. All right, and so we have this. And now what we're going to do, now don't worry that there's a little bit of a white strip here, because what we're going to do is we're going to mount this on a slightly larger piece of basic white. So this was 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to cut a piece that is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And we're going to mount that right on there so everything has a nice little border. And I can cheat this one down to the bottom so that this edge is the same as that edge visually. And so you may get this same pattern in your class kit, or you may get different ones. Just depends what I have. And by the way, you can, those are some full ones, but some of these that you cut off, you could use on another one. You're making more than one and have plenty of scraps. All right, so now let's go ahead and find our card base. All right, I have a base of gorgeous grape. This is going to set on there just like that. I guess I probably could have gone a little bit wider than 5 1/8 just because I cheated this top down, but it's fine. And so we've got that. All we need to do is add a sentiment, maybe some ribbon. Now my card base is a hot dog fold, so it opens this way. Obviously I'll need something on the inside, and we're just going to bring in a piece of scrap cardstock. We need a sentiment, and we also need to determine what shape is going on here for our sentiment. And I think I'm going to use a circle because parts of the flowers definitely have a circular feel. I've gone ahead and brought in this 3rd smallest circle from my Stylish Shapes and cut a piece from my basic white. And I'm bringing in Unbounded Love, and I'm going to use Hope on the outside is believing in a brighter tomorrow. This is going to be a card to encourage someone. We just need our purple ink, gorgeous grape ink. photopolymer so you can see right through it. Make sure you're stamping right where you want to, which for me is right in the center there. And then we're just going to find a spot on our card where we want this to go. We can have it up in the top. We can have it, I think I like it down here, right in the bottom. And I'm going to have it kind of around the intersection of a bunch of different pieces. Let's bring in our dimensionals. Let's see, let's use up some edges. There we go. And on the inside, we'll find the other sentiment. Believing in brighter tomorrow is right up here. When they have not been inked yet, it is sometimes very difficult to read. So I'll look at here. Well, if I haven't already mounted them directly on the case, I'll try to move this out and see what it says. A lot of times I have already mounted though. Let's bring in an inside layer. This is 4 by 5 1/4. Is believing in a brighter tomorrow. And we can take some of our scraps and do the same thing just in one row at the bottom, just to carry on that theme that we had going on in the top. I'll leave a little bit of space at the bottom here. Ooh, little slippery. There we go. And this piece not quite long enough. This piece will do it though. And I'll just trim this one. We'll be goo-goning my scissors immediately after this. And there we go. We just need to take the glue that I just put away, put some on the back here. Now I do think that some gems would be nice, just to give a little bit more of that hopefulness feel. I don't want anything that competes too much with the color. So these gems were kind of unveiled with the zinnias, which were an online exclusive. So let's put a couple of these sparkly pretty things around. We can put one down here, and we can put some up here. We will always want to go for a triangular kind of feel. There we go. And there is our card. If you would like the supplies that will allow you to create one of each of this evening's cards, then simply place an order of $35 or more in my online store. That's before shipping and tax. If your order is $60 or more, I will include a package of embellishments because, let's face it, you can never have enough bling. Not only will I include the instructions for the supplies for the cards that I create tonight, but also the cards that I created for my Friday Night Live this past Friday, which was August 9th, and also the one that I'm going to be creating this coming Friday on August 16th. So you'll be able to create 6 cards and you'll get the envelopes as well. You'll have to supply the sentiments and of course the adhesive, but I will supply all the other ingredients that you'll need to create. Let's get back and create some more. Now it's not just cardstock that we can have excess from, but it's also designer series paper. Now for the purposes of this video, I am going to use a full sheet of, well, not quite a full sheet, but a 6x6 sheet of designer series paper. This is from the Thoughtful Journey collection. And I just love the tones in it, and I have a lot of this paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some 1/2-inch strips. But generally, when I'm using 6x6 paper, and sometimes when I'm using 12x12, I have 1/2-inch strips left over. A lot of times I have 2-inch strips left over. And when you're dealing with those 2-inch strips, then you're going to have 4 1/2-inch strips in that 2 inches, right? We need 8 cuts. Now I can use 4 of this pattern, and I'm cutting across the grain, so I'm getting a bunch of different colors here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's 3. Sorry, can't count. And then we would need 4 of a coordinating color. I happen to think this coordinates nicely with it, so I'm going to use 4 1/2-inch strips of this pattern. Now, a couple other things that we're going to need. We are going to need a 2-inch by 5.5-inch piece of basic white. This piece is 5.5 inches long. I just need to cut one that is 2 inches wide. Another strip to use another time. And then I need a piece of coordinating cardstock, and I'm going to use Pretty Peacock. That's also 5.5 inches long, but I want it to be 2 1/4 inches, and that this one actually is. So I guess I cut that another time. So these are all the pieces that you need for the twisted ribbon piece that we have. And I'm going to bring in a silicone sheet here. So a silicone mat is great because the glue, you can see that I have some wet glue here because I've been working on some projects, but in places where it's dry, it just rubs off. Things don't stick to it, which is what makes this ideal here. I'm going to set this aside for just another second because we do have one more thing we need to do first. We're going to bring in either a ruler, or in my case, I'm bringing in a grid sheet. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the camera. And I'm going to put my grid sheet down and put my corner, or my paper, my cardstock, right in the corner there. I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to mark at every 1 inch. 1, 1, 1, 1. Oops. So I'm just marking in a little bit on the side. And then this 1/2 inch, don't worry that it's just 1/2 inch. Down here, same thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the inch line. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the inch line. Inch line. Inch line. And that one right there. So I'm just going to come over here. All right. So can you see that I have some pencil marks on there? Hopefully you can see that. All right, now I'm going to bring in the silicone sheet again. I'm going to avoid the wet glue that's right there right now. Doesn't matter which side I start with, but I'm going to use this greenish end here, and I'm going to work as much towards the end as I can. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. All right, so I'm going to start on the green end and apply some glue. You can use regular tape runner, doesn't matter. I just happen to have my glue out. So I'm going to start by putting the bottom of my strip on that first tick mark here and going down so it hits the other tick mark on the other side. Okay, so it's on a diagonal. And then I'm going to repeat this. And my personal preference is I'm gonna be sticking with the greens and blues down here. You're gonna do that again. Let's see, hold on. Why am I? All right, so if I go up on this, here we go. So you've got about a ½ inch in between them, right? Make sure I'm on the green side. Okay, we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to make sure that the bottom of my strip is on those tick marks. So if you're getting a gap that's too wide, it's because you've put the top of the edge on your tick marks instead of the bottom edge on those tick marks. That's how you can keep yourself straight. They should be about a ½ inch apart when you are working. All right, and then you just press it down. Now, if you're using tape runner, it doesn't matter, tape runner or glue, this is not going to stick to the silicone sheet. It's the beauty and magic of the silicone sheet. Whoops, there we go. That one goes to the corner. All right. Now, we have a couple of places where there's a little bit of an issue, and that's up here and here. So let me show you how to deal with that. You don't need as much. And there is a tick mark right here, and we want the bottom of it there, right? And I'm just going to make sure that that is about parallel to this one. As close to it as I can come anyways. Okay, and that should go right up to the corner. I'm just going to stick that there. And then we're going to do the same thing on this other bottom piece right here. Again, these last little ones, you don't need a lot of room. Now, there's no tick mark down here, but the bottom, the last tick mark is right here at the bottom. So I want to make sure that this comes right to the bottom and it looks like it's parallel right here, and it is. And I'm kind of working off my paper right now, so let me pick this up. Now, to make this a little bit more manageable, we are going to trim this a little bit more, but right now we're just going to trim it fairly close, because what we can do is we can use this side. I don't have to cut other strips to use the other side. Now this is pretty much dry, so I'm going to just wipe it off. This area is still a little bit wet. I'm just gonna, I guess I can kind of wipe it off too and not have to worry about anything else. All right, so we're gonna put this back on. And now we're going to go this way. So here was a mark, and I can see a mark over here. So I'm going to go from the mark down to another mark that's below it. Okay, so I'm going to go this way. So that's what we're going to do. This one's a little short, so we're going to have to put glue on most of it. All right, so tick mark up here to tick mark down here. All right. And then we're going to keep them on going. Remember, everything should be parallel here, so this one needs to be parallel to the next one. Now, if you have a pencil mark that shows, you can certainly erase it afterwards if you think somebody's going to notice it. Nobody's going to notice this one because I'm going to cover it up, but I can see the pencil mark right there. So, but I'm going to cover it up with a greeting anyway. But this is why you want to use pencil and not pen. You want to make sure that both ends go completely over that side. So I just had to slide mine down because even though the top was on, the bottom was into the center too much. All right. And then one more, actually it's two more because I have to do the top too, right? So bottom, and we're gonna go to the corner. I can't really see the corner, but what we're gonna do is just make sure that these two are parallel, and then that will make it work right. And I just need one more little piece for up at the top. Here and right up to the corner. All right, so we have that look right there. So you've got a bunch of diamonds in the center here. Now you can let this dry a little bit, which will help your scissors out a little bit, but your scissors are going to get sticky with this technique, whether you're using glue or the other adhesives. So I just recommend that you have some Goo Gone. Maybe you have a dedicated set of kind of yucky scissors. I have Goo Gone, that's going to work, and I also have a sharpener for my scissors. But now we're just going to flip this over and we're going to trim it. Now when you're cutting and things are starting to stick to your scissors, go ahead every now and then and just drop them off. It'll make cutting through the rest of it a lot easier. Because first of all, it's hard to see when you're cutting through them. And they stick to everything. I get a little crazy with my glue too. All right, so you can see how this side already looks so much neater. All right, and so there we have it. And I think those colors are beautiful together. Now again, remember what I told you? So once it's not white anymore, the glue is dry, you can just brush this off, and that's how you clean it. Nothing sticks to this. It's fantastic. All right, we can put that away. So now we're going to mount this on top of this darker, pretty peacock layer. Now, I'm showing you a technique, so I'm not really, I'm going to keep it fairly simple for sake of time too on the sentiment layer. You could put in, you could stamp flowers and die cut and do all sorts of different things, but I'm going to keep it fairly simple. I'm going to bring in a piece of Lost Lagoon cardstock, and let's just put the crisp fold in there, and we put that right on here. Ooh, that's pretty together, isn't it? That's pretty nice. And then we're going to just mount that right on there with some glue. I think I have an extra strip left over. I'm not sure. Might have been from another project, I suppose. I'll put this right here. So it really does kind of look like twisted ribbon. You know, ribbon that's kind of, then it folds back over, and it's pretty. It almost looks like a little bit of a lattice work as well. I'm going to show you an alternate for this in just a moment. Look, it'll have a slightly different look to it. Let's see. So then let's go ahead, and I'm going to take a piece of, I would like to say that this is scrap paper, but it does not appear to be. But for my sake, my purposes right now, it is. I'm going to bring in the set Heartfelt Hexagon, and I think I'm going to use the Sending You Lots of Love and Hugs. Let's see where that is, right here. Oh, I haven't used this one yet. Get out a block. All my bigger blocks seem to be a little in use, maybe. And I think probably stamping with Pretty Peacock would be good for this. All right. There we go. And let's punch this out. If you use your punch upside down, you can kind of eyeball it to see what's center and what's a good position. And so then this is going to go right on here. And I think this is great for, I mean, we could do a whole lot of things with this. I'm just keeping it really, really simple. This could go for masculine or feminine receiver or recipient. I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals. Could add some bling if you wanted to. We're just going to keep this one pretty basic. That way, you know, we can always add bling if we want to send it to somebody that appreciates bling. We can just keep it just like this otherwise. And then all we need to do is stamp inside the card. And if you have extra strips, you just put a piece of this on your inside. So for example, we have this. You put this right in here, and then we can just have a single strip of quote-unquote ribbon going down the side like that. I should have kept my silicone mat out, but I think I'm going to be okay. Yeah, I didn't go too close to the edge with my glue, so I'm good. And then you can just put this in here. You can put it in here. You can have that stripe on either side that you want. I think I like it on this side. Of course, if you want to stamp, I would stamp before gluing it down. Probably even before I add the strip, just in case I get a little stamping accident. You know, the ones we have from time to time. And there's that card. I mentioned I would show you something, a little bit of a different look. So here's a slightly different pattern. You can see that they overlap on the right edges. That might be another way that you can do it if you want to, I don't know, kind of keep track of what you're doing. I would say that over here, you can see that it goes between the strips. So that kind of works that way as well. It's just a different look. I kind of like the diamonds both coming down the center, rather than having just, you know, half a diamond over here and a longer, fuller diamond over there. So, but Either way, it looks like a twisted ribbon. Did you, like me, notice this card when you first got your catalog? It is beautiful. It's on page 110, and it's just got a lot of metallic features and weaving. Now, you don't have to use metallics, but the artist here did, and I'm going to as well because these gems will match very nicely. And these little flowers are from the Flowers of Beauty die set from page 54. And if I look at that on page 54, you'll see that it was part of the Unbounded Beauty Suite collection. But look at this. This is one die that cuts out all those flowers. So it's not a lot of work to create a couple of these cards. The most work is going to be cutting into strips, which I have already done because you should know how to cut into strips. Now, I've made my strips 4 inches by 1/4 of an inch, and that's because I knew that I wasn't going to be weaving across the whole card, but I did want a certain, amount of extra to play with. And the paper comes in 12 by 12 sheets, 1 of each color. So you can see I've cut off 4 inches. That leaves 2 more 4-inch sections that I could do if I just wanted to do this technique. But I've cut off quite a bit of strips, made a bunch so that my team can make this card and also that you can as well. And I've got some extra pieces here that I'll cut the flowers from. But let's go ahead. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer, and we'll start with a piece of basic white that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now I'm going to go over here, and if I take 1/4 of an inch away from 4, that makes 3 3/4. So I'm going to be cutting in 1/4 of an inch, but I don't want to cut it off. I want to start 1/4 of an inch from this end and go to 1/4 of an inch from that end. So since it is 0 to 5 1/4, I'm going to cut from 1/4 to 5 on my paper trimmer. So if I put my cutting blade at the 1/4 of an inch mark, there's a little line right here. If I put that at the 1/4 of an inch mark and press down, that's now where we want it. And I'm going to move it up until it hits that 5-inch mark. And then I'm going to move my paper over another 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to go 5 down to 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to do this 8 times. So this is 3. Obviously, you can do it as many as you want, but I'm just going by what the concept artist did. 4. 5. 6. 7. And if they're a little bit off from each other at the end, that's fine. We're not doing real tight weaving. 8. Okay, so now we've got this right here. We're going to set that aside. Okay, now that we have our 8 slits, we're going to begin weaving. So if you want it to look just like the one that's in your catalog, or as close to it as possible, go ahead and refer to it. It's a little hard to see what's happening here, but this first one, this copper one right up at the top, you go over the first piece and under, and then you just keep alternating over and under. I don't know about you, but this does bring back memories of Valentine's making in elementary school. And now we'll go with gold. And instead of going over just one, we're going to go over two. So that puts the colors that you see in an alternate column. I've got glue on my thumb. All right. I'm going to slide that up. And then tungsten, over one, over two. Now we're up to the over three part. Slide that up, and you'll notice I'm not gluing anything down right now because I will end up repositioning stuff, but the gaps that I'm leaving are not the same width as my strips, so they're not 1/4 inch, but it's not as tight as I can get it up there either. So it's probably 1/8 inch wide, I'm guessing. And so then we start back over with this one, and we're going to go over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you look at your sample, you don't have to have these strips everywhere. So you don't have to waste these beautiful metallic pieces on parts that aren't going to be seen. So this sentiment covers a couple of rows probably. So let's go ahead and start down at the bottom here. And it looks like, and you can see right here, it looks like we are 1 over, so this is 1, 2, 3, we go over the 4th one with this, over the 3rd one, I think. Over the 3rd one. One less than the one previous. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as long as you're kind of keeping some sort of pattern. And the pattern is going to be broken up, so it doesn't really matter up there. So then we have tungsten. Where's my tungsten at? Here. Gotta get my strips. Here's tungsten. And we're going to come back over one. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. So over 2. And sometimes it's easier to work in the middle where it's looser. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to try to get these as straight as possible. So that there's the gap between in here is the same as the gap over here. And it's all right if your gaps between these aren't exactly the same, but you'd probably want to try to make them roughly the same. So my little piece here is going to be about 1 1/4. I'm going to get this up a little bit higher. And let's see. If you have your grid sheet, that might help you here. But really, it's all lines, and you can kind of tell when they're straight and when they're not. All right, and so then when we put this here, you can see that you've got both peeking out just a little bit. Hers peeks out a little bit more than mine does. Her piece was a little bit longer, but again, you can play with the spacing here and get that so it shows a little bit more if you want it to. See, something like that. All right. Now, how do we finish this? So what we want here is we want, let me explain. We want this one to be exactly to the edge, right? That's the part that's going to get glued. This is a little tricky. It's not hard, it just takes a little bit of time. And you just want a teeny tiny little bit of glue. It'd be great if you could add your adhesive first, but then you can't weave, so. And over here, this last one gets cut off completely. So what I have found is that it's hard to cut off completely right over here at this edge. So I pull this one a little bit. I should have cut the other edge first. All right, let me trim this again. I can trim this a little bit afterwards to make it nicer. Okay, so there we have that. This one, now I see I have a little bit of glue right here, so I'm gonna slide this one over a little bit and hide it. Perfect, right? So this one goes underneath, so I can just go ahead and glue this right here. I'm not gonna worry that it's a little excess glue there. Okay, and on the other end, I want to cut it along this cut line right here. So you're gonna just trim this. So this takes a little bit of time, not super long. And then here, again, we want this end trimmed. So we can trim it, or we can just pull it backwards. Pull it backwards first, get it lined up how we want it, and then our glue is going to go right here. Just a teeny tiny little bit. You might even be able to use a glue dot. I think a glue dot's a little bit big though, and probably a little bit excessive. So there we go. And we'll trim this off at this second mark right in there. Okay, so there, and that's the process that we're gonna go on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this up, and we will see you or talk to you in just a minute after I'm done. All right, I think I have everything glued down. You do definitely want to try to avoid getting glue on your hands if you can, but don't worry, because we can cover up some glue spots. So then we're going to trim right along those lines. Some of you may prefer an X-Acto knife. I can't go as neatly with an X-Acto knife. So I've ripped the paper a little bit there, so I'm going to just cover that up with a flower when I get to that point. Maybe it's easier if I hold it in the air. Yep. All right, so there we have that. We're going to put our little sentiment right over the top. We're going to add some embellishments. All right, now in here, it looks like she just stamped with probably smoky slate or gray granite, but I think either basic gray, so it shows up a little bit more, or you could do a metallic, but I'm wondering if the metallic is a little bit too much. Probably so. So let's go ahead. I'm taking Happy Birthday from Unbounded Love, which is part of that suite. I think this looks like if you wanted to make it a little bit more feminine, you probably want to add it a little bit make it a little bit lighter. So either gray granite or smoky slate. But there we have that. And I'm going to adhere this with dimensionals. And let's go all the way to the edge here. All right. And I have a piece of thick basic white that I can mount this to. All right, so we're going to have this right here. So it's a beautifully clean and simple kind of card. And let's see, do we want to, we could probably put this up on dimensionals again, but I think, and I am going to do that because what happens is if I were to apply glue all over here, then what's going to happen is the glue is going to seep through these cut lines. And I don't want that because that's going to then be a pretty big mess. So let's just put some dimensionals on. And then all that's left to do is embellish. All right, in your class kit, this would be the card kit for the card we're currently working on. You'll find this strip of glue dots with some embellishments on it. So these are little flowers with gems attached. And you can see on the page here, these little flowers and then the separate gems. So the flowers are from page 54, the Flowers of Beauty set. And this die and this die right here, this is the one that produces the flowers we're using, cuts 8 at a time, which means you can die cut a lot of embellishments in not a lot of time. And so then what I did is I stuck those on a glue dot, and then I added some of these gems, and these gems are the adhesive backed metallic gems, which go beautifully with the 3 colors that we're using: gold, copper, and tungsten. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to the video where I turned it from here and just added them on here, but I think you can probably figure out that all I did was peel these off and stick them on. And that is indeed what I did. That's a wrap for this Technique Tuesday. I hope you've been inspired to create something beautiful with the strips and scraps that may be cluttering your creative space. If you are planning on placing an order for If you are planning on placing an order of $35 or more so that you can get the class kit, don't forget that currently during the month of August 2024, Stampin' Up! Is having a sale on Designer Series paper. So you'll get 15% off each one of those packages, whether it's in the annual catalog or the online exclusives. You can find them all in my online store. Again, the link, which is the same as the ordering link, can be found in the description of this video below. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you again for Tune In Tuesday in 2 weeks. But don't forget to come back on Friday so that you can see one more card made with some leftovers. Have a great rest of your week.